Play ball! Welcome back to the On Deck Circle podcast. I am your host and the director of Dynasty Baseball at fantasy6pack.net, Dave Eddy. You can find me on Twitter at Corporal Eddy. Before we get started, make sure that you are subscribed and please go ahead and smash that like button for us. So without any further ado, folks, here we go. Oh, you know it's Tuesday night, boys.
Yep. You hear that music, you know what time it is.
Of course. I am joined by our resident heartthrob, Mr. Nick Zanaboni.
The hair's growing back. So
the hair's growing back. And a special hat-wearing Jason Beckner going to be joining me to talk a little bit of Dynasty Baseball. So go ahead and say hello there, boys.
How's it going, guys? You can find me on Twitter at JRBex. I got 2 articles coming out weekly. We're at Fantasy Six Pack, Dynasty Buy or Sell, and I also got the Prospect Report that comes out on Tuesdays too. So go take a look over on Twitter for all the updates.
Jason does a whole lot more writing than I do. I do 1 article a week. This week covering Randy Arozarena.
Ooh.
Is he a thorn? Is he a rose? Find out tomorrow morning.
Ooh,
I got a Randy bat and ball over here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
From Cardinals? Well, what team was he on when?
Probably. Well, the ball's a World Series signed ball. So
okay.
I guess that explains that, huh?
Yeah. Cardinals did not make the World Series.
What's that?
I said the Cardinals did not make the World Series.
No, I guess not, right? All right, boys, let's get into some news of the week here. And I don't think it's as big of news as maybe some people make it out to be here. But Jared Kelenic optioned down to AAA Tacoma. Everyone knows he had quite the struggle here recently. He had gone hitless in 44 at-bats, which spanned all the way back to May the 25th. So
that's my birthday.
Really? Well, there you go.
Really?
Maybe he just gave you a little birthday present.
Thank you, Jared.
But I mean, he shredded his way through the minor leagues. But in this brief little stint that he had, he ended up only hitting .096, on base percentage of $185. And then I don't know if Jason saw this in the notes or not, but Jason, do you want to take a guess at what his WRC plus was?
I'm going to cheat, and I saw it. It's only a 14.
Yeah, he had a 14
weighted run
plus. Well, if you remember, Nick, when an advanced stat has a plus in it, what is league average?
100.
100. So he was.
I'm learning.
Yeah, so he was a 14. So terribly bad.
So I'm a 0, and he's a 14.
Well, we're all zeros, but yes.
But 14 points more than us.
Yeah. For me, needless to say, I think moving him, back down to AAA right now is the right move. He was struggling at an epic level. Mm-hmm. And for me, it just makes sense to give him a chance to, regain himself in the minors. I don't think that this should dampen anyone on Kelenic's upside. In fact, in a couple of leagues where I thought it was possible, I've tried to get him, and it hasn't worked. But, for me, I mean, people, and I guess other people talk about this too, but I'm going to give you some names. But, people get spoiled sometimes when, prospects come up and they are really good, right away. But fact of the matter is that's really not that common. So here's just a list of some names of guys that got called up and struggled mightily in their first taste of the big leagues. So some good names, for guys that are, in the league now, and just some guys that, that you would know as well. So guys that came up, struggled right off the bat, and have been good. Lucas Giolito, remember him. Yoan Moncada, people forget, he was terrible
at second base.
Yeah, he was terrible. Aaron Judge, Joey Gallo, Jose Barrios, Javier Baez, Jason, Xander Bogaerts, Nick. I don't know how this guy made some bum named Mike Trout. Anthony Rizzo, he had bust written all over him right off the bat. Justin Upton, and then if we go dig a little bit deeper, we have Dustin Pedroia, Troy Tulowitzki, and Alex Rodriguez. So all guys that were in a similar type boat to what we've seen Kelenic do, but obviously they all turned it around. So I guess what do you guys make of Kelenic and the demotion and his little bit of time up in the big leagues?
I think that people they get too excited. People, as in people like us, the Dynasty audience, we're too excited about these blue chip guys. And the difference between AAA and the big leagues is a lot bigger than we think. And it's completely okay for a 22? Is he 21? Wow. A low 20s MLB player to struggle in his first cup of coffee, but I'm not worried at all. Go get him. You probably won't be able to, because I think people just have to cool it.
Yeah, I mean, this just proves once again that hitting major league pitching is not something that's easily done. Like you said, there's been a huge list of guys that have failed and then they come back and they're top players in the league. Even if you look at some of the stats, I mean, his BABIP was only a 109. So, I mean, he's obviously getting some bad luck there too. And I think, I looked up this too. I saw Eric Cross tweeted it out. I mean, a lot of his advanced stats were close to league average. Barrel percentage, chase percentage, exit velocity. They're all right there in line with the league average. So, I mean, I'm sure, these guys got a lot of pressure on him. He's ranked one of the top prospects in the league, comes up. The pressure gets to him. He's pressing a lot, trying to find that perfect pitch. He did have 2 home runs, so he'll go back down to AAA. He'll remember how to hit. Yeah, he'll remember how to hit home runs and not press so much. And
by like mid-July.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can even take something on page out of his fellow outfielder Taylor Trammell. I mean, he kind of in the similar boat. It's in Seattle outfield. He struggled. He was sent back down to AAA, completely raked down there. He's back now. He's still not crushing it, but he's doing better than he was earlier in the season. So maybe he'll take a page out of his fellow.
It's a confidence boost too.
Oh,
it's kind of like a cold street breaker,
right?
Like, you just gotta hit whatever you can.
If you guys remember too, like Lewis Brinson absolutely destroys AAA, and he gets called up to the big leagues, and he's just terrible. Gets called, gets sent down, absolutely destroys AAA for.
And comes back up.
He destroys AAA for weeks. It's not like for weeks. Comes up, can't do anything. Gets sent down, destroys AAA. So
I love Lewis Brinson. So.
Yeah, I mean, so fun fact: one of the worst trades I ever made in Dynasty was I don't know what would this been, at least 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Lewis Brinson straight up for Walker Buehler.
Yeah, it's tough.
I just but I mean, if you think about, like, at the time, again, I'm trading a pitching prospect for a hitter.
Yeah.
You take your lumps every now and again, but I made that trade. So what are you going to do?
They happen.
Speaking of trade for players, Trevor Story is a guy that I recently acquired, Jason. Let's talk about him here for a minute. Reports out of Denver now. I shouldn't come as a surprise, but Trevor Story does not intend on re-signing with the Rockies.
Whoa.
And I know, right?
Crazy.
Already one of the probably most notable guys on the block as the trade deadline, is creeping up on us. Now, assuming that, Story gets dealt out of Coors, what are you guys' thoughts on his dynasty value as he, stops playing his home games at Coors, even though, we obviously aren't aware of what his landing spot may be at Oakland.
They should have just re-signed Simeon.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious to see where he goes. I'd love to see him get into another, stacked lineup somewhere.
New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think, biggest thing you might see dip is, depending on where he lands, is the stolen bases. And a lot of depending on the manager he gets under, a lot of them, the philosophy is not to steal bases anymore. So that could take a huge hit, and then obviously the power numbers are going to take a little bit of a hit. So clearly he's going to have a hit in his dynasty value. He's only got 5 home runs. A lot of it's due to his he's been injured too. But he might actually get an increase and in the home run, depending on which ballpark he goes to. If you look at home road splits, they're not too far off. Obviously, the average struggles a lot, but the power numbers are pretty similar. And everybody's saying the same thing about Arenado too. It's obviously when he was traded to St. Louis. Oh, he's going to struggle, and he's doing just fine. He's got an OPS of 855 with 11 home runs. So I'm not too worried. Again, obviously, anytime someone leaves a hitter-friendly ballpark, they're going to have a little bit of a dip in value decreasing, but I'm not too concerned, actually. He might even get an increase if he goes to a stacked lineup. So
yeah, he's going to go to any team that has a better lineup than the fucking Rockies do.
Yeah.
So the Tigers aren't going to trade for Trevor Story?
No, that's crazy. But even that's probably a better lineup than the Rockies. It's like weirdly close.
I mean, I doubt it, but okay.
Miguel Cabrera?
Yeah.
Making myself laugh tonight. That's great. Yeah, I just hope he doesn't go to the Yankees.
I mean, I just looked at his, splits for just this year, and the at-bats are a little bit off. He's had 80 at-bats on the road, 104 at Coors, so it's not exactly apples to apples. But still, home runs, RBIs, or not RBIs, home runs and stolen bases are pretty much identical. He's actually got 3 times as many RBIs at home, which probably is more of a coincidence than anything. But when you look at the things that, the 24 at bat, difference don't really change. His average 75 points higher at home. That's quite significant. On base percentage 25% higher at home. Whatever, small sample size. Slugging is nearly 100 points higher at home. So, more than likely, you are going to see, stuff like that. His slugging percentage and theoretically his home runs should take a little bit of a dip, but like you had said, the stolen bases might be more of a philosophy thing. He's still a great hitter, so he's not going to take less walks because he's not in Colorado. Average is probably not going to take too much of a hit. I mean, Colorado is more for slugging and stuff than it is for just average. So LeMahieu didn't miss a beat leaving Colorado. So I think really the only thing you have to worry about is maybe he loses a handful of home runs. Maybe he gets less steals just because that's the way that they like to play the game. So,
but we'll score more runs because he'll be in a lineup.
And exactly, should have more RBI.
It's all going to even out. Realistically,
I think he's young enough. He's good enough that I don't know that a change of scenery for him is going to be terrible, unless he just goes to I don't know, maybe if he went to San Francisco, that kind of a ballpark. I guess you could see a slight dip, but not enough to where if you own Story, I would say, oh man, you might want to ditch him now before he
gets traded to a bad situation.
If anything, maybe do the opposite of that. Maybe find someone who would panic and think, oh, I better get rid of him while I can. But anywho, Jason, why don't you go ahead and lead us into our advanced stat of the week?
Sure. So this week we're going to look at ISO, or isolated power. It's really good when you're trying to identify how a batter is performing, at a power level. Obviously, it's pretty simple. Calculation is just slugging minus their average, and then it'll give you the isolated power. Obviously, extra base hits are generally lead to RBIs and runs scored. So it's one of the things that as fantasy owners that we'd like to look at. Obviously, you can identify the players, outlining ISO numbers, and then you can see if there's a possible breakout there. And then I get all advanced stats, not the end all be all, but if you're looking for some upside on players or you're comparing players, ISO might be a good one of those outlying stats you can look at and be like, oh, well, this guy's ISO is a little bit higher, so I'm going to value him more than somebody else. And then, if you look at the league leaders, right now, Otani's leading the league at 330, Vladdy 328, Acuna 320, Winker 315, and all 4 of those top 5 in the home runs. So, you can clearly see where ISO might be able to help you kind of find where not just home runs but also those extra base hits. So I like to look at it. Get another outlying stat to kind of look at some possible outlying players that could be breaking out, or again, like if you're comparing a player where, maybe when you're trading for somebody, you kind of look at their ISOs, where's some value at there. So that's kind of the way I look at it as far as the ISO goes. Dave, you got anything to add to that one?
I mean, the main thing that I think about with ISO is it is a little bit different than the rest of the stats that we've talked about, just for the fact of this one does take the largest sample size before it becomes extremely relevant. Like, I mean, obviously all stats, the more of a sample size you get, the better. But with ISO, just because of the way that it is figured, so that it doesn't get manipulated in too funky of a way, I mean, you need like 400 or 500 plate appearances before you can look at it and say, this is like for real, some of the other ones, you can literally get away with 100 at bats or something. You can get a pretty good feel for it, but this is one that takes quite a large sample size. So ISO can probably be ignored for the most part. Until guys get, at least 100 at bats before you'd even, bother looking at it. And then once you get around the All-Star break, that's when it really starts to ring true. And then it's more of a reflection kind of at the end of the year for me to look back and try to find things out. Not so much during the season, but
use it in the off season.
Is that reflection to look back and maybe look for guys that you could see, that maybe because you get rewarded for hitting doubles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're getting a nice reward for hitting doubles, and a lot of times that's where power starts. Guys will maybe a guy only hits 15 home runs, but he had 60 doubles or something. Well, a lot of times those doubles slowly start to turn into home runs, and you start, losing doubles because you're hitting more home runs. So that's kind of how I look at ISO.
I'm surprised with Yandy there. I mean, I think I just have like this preconceived notion of Yandy because he's fucking ripped that he just like pounds the ball. But him being that low is ridiculous.
But again, you got to look and think he's got 150 plate appearances. So, I mean, if you're not – I mean, home runs make a huge difference.
For now.
Yeah, home runs make a huge difference very, very quickly. So, stuff like, the guy like Winker, for example, you could see him if he were to fall off, his ISO would drop pretty quickly. Or vice versa. Yandy hits a home run tonight and his ISO goes from 0.54 to like 0.9. He like doubles it, so it can change quick with this small of a sample size. All right, boys. A little buy, sell, hold time. Let's talk about Alec Bohm. All right. So we'll start here with a little bit of a mixture here of stats. So batting 209, expected batting average of 257. So not quite batting as well as maybe he should when you look at that. But then you look at the BABIP, and the BABIP is 273. So that's actually higher than the XBA. So kind of a little bit of a mixed signal there with this, batting average. On base percentage is an atrocious 254. If you look at his xWOBA, that's at 312. So you would expect that, his on base percentage should be, a bit higher than that. 4 home runs, 26 RBIs, 3 steals. So, not really doing a whole lot for you anywhere across the board. If you look at, the advanced stats themselves, things that kind of stand out to me a little bit is his XBA is actually in the 56th percentile. So that's, pretty high for a guy batting just over 200. He's not doing such a hot job here with, strikeouts and walks. So, that, he's not being disciplined at the plate. Bottom 20 percentile in both K percentage and walk percentage. But when he does hit the ball, he is hitting it hard. He is 80th percentile in hard hit percentage. So, I mean, there is a little bit of good there, mostly, a lot of bad. I think a lot of it's kind of self-inflicted. Doesn't seem like it's a ton of bad luck. This dude's 85th overall in my dynasty rankings. So, I think kind of highly of him, of course. What are you guys thinking there, Alec Bohm? Buying, selling, or holding?
Take it, Jason.
Yeah, like you, Dave, I'm high on Bohm, so I'm holding him for now. Like you said, he's only hitting 209, but his expected WOBA is 50 points higher than league average. He's still hitting the ball hard, like you said. Strikes out a ton, but he's also not chasing a lot, and his whip percentage is close to league average too. His BABIP's at 273, so that could be telling. Right now, it's strange because fastballs are what's causing him all the trouble.
Yeah,
he's only batting 179 against fastballs, and that's usually one of the things that hitters feast on.
Right.
It's quite opposite with him. He's actually hitting really high average on off speed and breaking stuff, where it's the fastballs that's giving him trouble. So I think it's only a matter of time before it starts catching up to that velocity. We don't really know if it's, maybe he's a slow starter. I haven't really looked at his, splits monthly at the minors, but we've only had a short, sample size in the majors. So I don't really know. He could be a slow starter. For that reasons, on all those reasons, I'm holding Bohm for right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I wrote him up last week with my quarterly review because I predicted that Bohm would be an MVP candidate in the next 3 years. So I had to pull back on that. But you bring up the fastball, and last year he batted 337 against the fastball. So he knows how to hit it. I'm obviously picking the best stats, but so last year he batted 337 with the fastball. Last year 378 with the breaking ball, and this year on the off speed 364. So if he can just somehow find the middle ground in all of that, he's going to be a great hitter because he is a good hitter. He is. I mean, he showed it. He's just so big. He has to be good. So I would love to be buying him right now. You probably wouldn't be able to. But if this is a season-long league, you might have to cut him if there's a better option out there. But he's got Harper around him. Harper's been hurt. I think things will go up for Bohm fairly quickly.
So I was looking at his, O-swing percentage. That's something that we, talked about last week, or I don't know if it was last week, but we talked about it here recently because I'm looking to, at him having, bottom 20 percentile, like I said, K and walk percentage. And, the worst guys in the league, are sitting, 35% and above. That's where, the absolute worst are, in that neighborhood. And then your best guys in the league are, about under 25%, basically. He's only at 28.4. So it's actually not that bad. So that's actually kind of weird. It makes me, as someone who doesn't see, a lot of, Phillies games, it kind of makes me wonder where all those strikeouts are coming from and why he's not walking more if he's, fairly good, league average wise, with that, chase percentage, because it's really not terrible. I mean, it's not good, but it's not terrible. So that's an interesting one. Next guy I want to talk about, this guy, I didn't know what to do with him in my rankings. He did get quite a boost. He's still only 488th. So it's not like, he's, crazy high, but I had to jump him up, and that's Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor's numbers and even his advanced stats are pretty solid, man. We're talking 275 batting average, which isn't great, but especially in this season, that's pretty decent. His XBA is 263, so that supports a 275 batting average. BABIP is 355, so that does give you room for regression for sure. But again, the XBA and the BABIP there don't quite line up with his 275. It's a little more likely that the 275 is pretty real than it drops off, precipitously. On base percentage, almost 400. He's at 394. And his xWOBA kind of backs it up. It's at 370. So it might be a little bit inflated, but definitely not too bad at all. Scored a ton of runs. He's got 44 runs, 7 home runs to go with 6 steals. So, he's getting you, both of those counting stats there, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. And then when you dig, right into the advanced stats, we're talking 82nd percentile in xWOBA. So very, very top end, getting on base. 64th percentile x batting average. 91st percentile in walk percentage. So he's clearly, walking quite a bit. So what are you guys thinking here? This is kind of a hard one for me. with Chris Taylor? Buy, sell, or hold?
First, can you switch the ticker? There you go.
I know. Sorry, it's hard. It's hard to read, talk, and keep track of it.
Get better.
I appreciate you keeping me honest, man. I need that.
I would buy before the show. Just a little behind the curtain. I asked to not talk about Chris Taylor, so
yes,
I'm just gonna go with my old reliable. He's multi-positional. That's great. Second base, shortstop, outfield. At least in one of my leagues, he's only 30. It's not bad.
Last week that was old. This week it's not bad. Oh, God.
Well, for Chris Taylor, it's solid.
Yeah, for Chris Taylor, yeah, I would have thought he was older, honestly.
Yeah, really.
If I had to guess,
expecting like 34.
Yeah, I was going to say 34, 35. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but buy him, Jason. Talk about him.
Yeah. I unfortunately am going to sell Taylor. Like I said, like Dave said, I don't know what to do with him either, but I think at this point you got to sell if you can get something for him. And he does walk a lot and he gets on base, but he just doesn't do anything special. And nothing one category that just jumps off the page. You know, his exit velo is league average. His strikeout numbers are way down, but it's also 3 years ago that he struck out 178 times when he received the full season's worth of plate appearances. I think in like 2018 he got like 600 plate appearances. He struck out 178 times. Just like we talked about earlier, his ISO right now is 192, and his career ISO is 182. So I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad either. And then, like Nick said, the one thing that he does offer, though, is the multi-position eligibility. So you might be able to get somebody that, you know, he's not pinholed to one position that somebody may be looking for. So obviously the multi-position eligibility would kind of help with the trade offers. But yeah, I got to sell him. There's just nothing sexy about Chris Taylor.
And I believe it was our fantasy six-pack chat. Somebody was offered, and correct me if this player is wrong, but I believe they were offered Chris Taylor to give up Luis Castillo. Does that sound right?
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's who it was.
Something like that, yeah.
And I instantly said, no, man, Castillo. Like, I mean, those are two guys that are going in opposite directions, but Castillo has the upside of an ace. You were seeing Chris Taylor's upside, in my opinion.
For like Dustin Pedroia light.
Yeah, for sure. Very light, yeah.
And they're both pretty light.
Yeah, I was gonna. The light's a very good term for them. You see how I switched the ticker before I started? I'm getting better.
You are.
So as you can see now, Keven Gausman will be next. Gave him a bump in my rankings too. Want to see a little bit more from him. You're probably going to be a little disappointed in the ranking, but I've got him at 125th. He has had 12 starts so far this year. Thrown 77 and 2/3 innings. If somebody gives a shit, he's 7-0. He's got a 1.27 ERA, which is obviously just fantastic. But his xERA is at 2.69, which still is absolutely terrific. But it just goes to show that you shouldn't expect that 1.27 to stick around. And his xFIP backs that up at 2.93. His xERA and xFIP are still both top 10 in the league. So his numbers are still just fantastic. WHIP is 0.76. So anytime it's around 1, it's great. If it's under 1, that's ridiculous. 93 strikeouts in those 77 innings. Only walked 16, not too bad. We talked about CSW percentage a while back. We said 30% or higher is elite. He's at 32.9. Which again, top 9 in the league. So, in pretty important advanced stats, he's, top 10 across the board. When we look at a few more things, we got 91st percentile xWOBA, so not letting guys on base, 91st percentile in xERA, 78th percentile x batting average, striking out guys at an 85th percentile rate, not really walking them either, 87th percentile in walk percentage. So what are you guys thinking? I think it's an interesting one with Keven Gausman here. So buy, sell, or hold for you.
He's starting to play out of the tier of pitchers that are throwing the no-hitter because he's good.
He's no longer no-hitter eligible.
Yeah, he's too good to throw the no-hitter. I saw a tweet today, SP Streamer. He was talking about his last 4 starts. He's given up 0 runs.
That's like phenomenal.
That's bananas.
And he's throwing innings too. I mean,
Yeah.
He's averaging what, about six innings to start, a little over 6 innings to start.
He's getting you the quality starts.
Great ballpark to pitch in. I mean, and that's not to knock him. That's just pointed out
because he plays for the Giants are good.
Yeah,
and it's probably the biggest surprise other than the Yankees sucking. Sorry, I just have to.
I think it's a much bigger surprise. I mean, nobody expected the Giants to be doing this.
Yeah. Are they still in first?
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
And people talk about the Padres, but the Padres are in third place in that division.
I mean, if you put together like the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Giants teams, I don't know how many Giants even make the team.
I don't know if they would.
Like Gausman would have a hard time cracking the Dodgers rotation.
Yeah, it's bananas.
And he would be the 5 on San Diego,
Yeah,
so
he would be like the long man.
Yeah, right.
But hold on, I'm checking the standings now just so I can.
Yeah, they're 15 games over 500.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In early June.
San Diego's in second now because the Dodgers kind of slowed down there for a little bit.
For a long bit, yeah.
Yeah. But Dodgers are really bad away. They're 15-15 away.
I wish the Tigers were 15-15 on the road. You say that's bad, and here as a Tigers fan, I'm like, oh man, I remember the days when we used to win games on the road.
The Dodgers only have 10 more wins than the Tigers. I mean, that's not bad.
Well, they haven't played yet, so it'll be 13.
Yeah.
Talk about line up your no hitters. Might have back-to-back no hitters.
Yeah, I mean Gausman's nasty right now. I would love to say I saw it coming, but I didn't.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
go get him. How old is he? 30s?
I mean, I'd have
30.
to look.
He's 30 exactly. Yeah, I looked
on
it
the
up.
Nose?
I have it on my nose.
For like a pitcher, that's like a 26-year-old hitter. So
yeah, for 30 for a pitcher isn't bad.
Right.
I don't consider a pitcher in his prime until about 28. I mean, maybe I'm off.
Even then, it's like 29, 30. Yeah.
And so I think he's
he's 30 for this whole season. So next year at 31, you might be able to get him for less once he's 31.
I doubt it.
Now with the
way he's going, man.
Yeah. Holy shit. He's so good. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's also on his 4th team in 5 years. So I don't know. All it took was find his way to San Francisco, and all
one
of a sudden
was Baltimore.
And now he's becoming a top 5 SP. His ERA is only 2nd behind only DeGrom. So yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Gausman. It's kind of shocking, to be honest with you. I don't know where I didn't see any of this coming.
I mean, I guess he's kind of one of those guys in a weird position. I think for Dynasty, to where if you were a win now team prior, to this season, you probably didn't own Gausman because he wouldn't have been a guy that you would have targeted. However, if you were on a team that was, maybe more of a rebuilder, I could see him being someone where you're like, well, he doesn't completely suck. I need innings. So a guy like Gausman's a guy you could have. So I really feel like Gausman's a guy that's in a perfect position to be, moved a lot this year because the people who need him probably don't own him. And he would be a guy, if you are in win now mode, you're not going to be able to expect him to keep this going. But I think if you could get him for, a reasonable price, I think you take your chances that at least, he dominates or semi-dominates for the rest of the year. I mean, that seems plausible. I think it's more likely that he finishes with a 2.5 ERA than he ends up with a 4.
Right.
This is actually crazy. So his game log: 6 2/3, 7 6 6 6 8 6 6 5 6 8 6.
Yeah, solid.
That's crazy. Wow. I'm learning stuff today. Keven fucking Gausman.
All right. So normally, because we're a little over almost at 35 minutes here, normally I'd skip the last buy sell hold, but
turn the hat forward, Jason.
Turn the hat around, Jason, because just because you're wearing the hat, I have to do it. I can't let you wear that hat for no good reason. So last guy we're going to talk about here is Casey Mize, and we'll run through him a little bit quicker. He's 94th overall in my ranking, so I've got him 34 spots higher than Kevin Gausman. He's a little bit of a mixed bag here. 11 starts for him, 64 and 2/3 innings, 3-4 record. ERA, I think, pretty solid at 3.34. Not really supported by the xERA. That's at 4.45. So should expect to see, that coming up a little bit. FIP's a little bit better shape. It's 4.19. So, if his ERA was more like 4, I think that would make sense. 119 whip, which, like I said, isn't bad. It's not Keven Gausman good, but a 119 whip I'll always take. Got 79 strikeouts, 33 walks. So walks are a little bit higher than I'd like to see them. Advanced stats, nothing really stands out as great. He's in the bottom third of the league in most things. 61st percentile walk percentage, like I said, so that's in pretty good shape. But what are you guys thinking here? 24-year-old Casey Mize, buy, sell, or hold?
Jace.
I mean, where do I start? I'm maybe one of Mize's biggest fans. He's drafted first overall. Like you said, you look at his StatCast page, all you're going to see is blue and light blue boxes. All the advanced stats are league average. Yeah. However, his velocity is up a tick from 2020. He's lowered his hard hit percentage from a year ago. He's also mixing all 5 of his pitches really well. He hasn't thrown a pitch more than 30% of the time. He's limiting the walks. It's almost two less per 9 than 2020. He's only had 1 walk in his last 3 starts. And the thing that has me most excited actually is the way he's performed against top offenses like Houston. People knock the Yankees, but those are still really good hitters on the Yankees. White Sox. Mm-hmm. He's only has 7 earned in 4 of those 6 starts against those offenses, and 2 of those starts against Sox were the 6 of those 7 runs. And he has 7 quality starts in his 11 starts. So something has clicked so far in 2021. He seems to be taking that next step that, sometimes pitchers, take a little bit more time to, get used to learning how to pitch and not just, when you're in minor leagues and college.
You can get away with throwing.
Yeah, you're just throwing. You know what I mean? You're throwing. Your velocity is usually higher than most people. It seems like now he's taking that step in 2021 where he's actually starting to pitch. And like I said, the biggest outlier to me is being able to perform against those top offenses. I mean, that's what really sets aces apart from pitching. When they can actually stand apart. So yeah, give me all the shares of Mize. And I actually traded for him prior to 2021. That's another reason why I'm all over Mize right now.
Yeah, I took him in our first-year player draft, the year he was eligible as a Tigers fan, of course. And he, I can speak on him probably as well as anyone just because I've seen so much of him. But, he struggled last year. And he struggled kind of to start the season. But lately he has been, I hate to say lights out because, like, DeGrom and Gausman and Burns and Woodruff, those guys have been lights out. But compared to what we were seeing from him last year, the improvement has been fantastic. Like you said, he has taken the next step. He went from, not looking good at all last year to he looks like a major league pitcher this year. And he looks like he could be on his way to being an ace. I don't know if he'll ever have the strikeout numbers to be in, a fantasy ace. Agreed. But, he's going to keep his ratios in line for you. I think he'll be a solid, 2, maybe if you have a really good rotation, maybe a solid 3 for Dynasty. I don't think he's ever going to be an ace for you, but he's shown a lot of improvement this year. A lot.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. That's the most intelligent thing you've said all episode, Nick. Yep, I agree.
Yep. Love Casey Mize.
I'll tell you, that'll just go ahead and lead into that's my final thought. Is I'm very impressed with Nick's assessment there of Casey Mize. Just a yep. I like it. Yep. I like it.
My only thought was that earlier today I was almost got a little scared that Nick wasn't going to hit us with one of his 3-man gifts on Twitter, but he came through in the 11th hour, and I'm actually quite pleased. I got to keep
him, man. I threw you at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's tough because you need to find one with 3 heads. And I originally got that GIF, and I was like, "Where's the 3rd fucking head go?" And then I was like, "Oh, 1 head is the wrench."
I'm chucking it.
Yeah, worked perfectly.
So next week, I was just gonna do all wrestling ones because I fucking love wrestling, but I was like, maybe not everyone loves that, so I'll mix it up.
Mix it up.
Yeah, you definitely should mix it up.
I know. I'm working on it. Becoming an influencer soon enough.
Anything that you would like to leave us with? Little bit of wisdom. I spent like I spent like $153 on Patrick Wisdom in
I'll say,
TGSBI.
speaking of wisdom, the Cubs have a new third baseman right now.
Yeah.
Chris
Brian, who?
We'll talk about him. We'll talk about him next week if things are still going well. How's that?
Yeah, cliffhanger.
All right. Can't wait.
So what we'll do, Jason, I want you to find an advanced stat that relates directly to Patrick Wisdom for next week.
Okay.
So I don't know what that is, but make it relate so we have a reason to talk to him.
All right, boys.
All right. We will catch everybody next week.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, see ya.